Good morning and welcome to the Lord Selkirk West Kildonan Community Committee. I am your chairperson for today's Thursday, October 2nd, 2025 meeting. I am here with my council colleague, Councillor Ross Eady. We have members from the Winnipeg Public Service here, our senior committee clerk, Peter Prinsloo, and our planner from PPND, Semi Jerez. Want to quickly acknowledge that we're meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homelands of the Red River Métis that we all have the privilege of living on. Want to also acknowledge our ancestral territory lands, and our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake Band number 40 in Treaty 3, and also acknowledge our neighbors in Treaty 5 where our hydroelectricity comes from. If I can have a motion to allow Councillor Devi Sharma to not be here because she's not here on city business. Greatly appreciated. Go ahead.
So,
okay, moved by Councillor Eady. All those in favor? Aye, and that's carried.
I would like to move that the minutes of September 3rd, 2025 be taken as read and
okay, all those in favor? Aye. Looking at, we do not have any delegations. Nobody from the police are here to provide their verbal comments. Okay.
No.
Then
we have a land dedication reserve.
Yes.
I got the mail from Councillor Sharma, who is quite proud of supplying, $13,650 to soccer over at in the Maples, and I so move a recommendation.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's carried unanimously. Right. Moving on to our hearings, public hearings.
We have to wait until 10:30 for those.
We do have to wait until
Yeah.
10:30. Okay, we will not adjourn. What's the word? Recess until 10:30 a.m. Okay. Good morning and welcome to the Lord Selkirk West Kildonan Community Committee. We are starting up the hearings portion for Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. My name is City Councilor Vivian Santos for the Port Douglas World. I will be your chairperson for today's meeting, together with Councillor Ross Eady from the Mynarski Board. We have members from the public service here, our senior committee clerk, Mr. Peter Prinsloo, our planner from PPND, Ms. Semi Jerez. Also want to acknowledge that we are meeting on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional homelands of the Red River Métis, where we have the privilege of living on. Also acknowledge our ancestral territory lands, and that our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake Band number 40 in Treaty 3, together with our neighbors in Treaty 5, where our hydroelectricity comes from. I'm going to turn it to the clerk to start introducing our public hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, the process the committee will follow is the applicant will be heard first, followed by those in support of the application. Next, those registered in opposition are heard, followed by those registered for information. Finally, the applicant may return to speak in rebuttal to comments made. However, no new information is permitted. Please note that when your name is called, it is your opportunity to speak. However, you are not obligated to do so. For a more in-depth overview of the public hearing process and other information pertaining to what happens before, during, and after a public hearing, please consult the City Clerk's Department website. Please note that all public hearings are recorded and will be part of the public record. Should you have any questions after the hearings have concluded, please contact the City Clerk's Department. Item 1 is a subdivision and rezoning at 678 McGregor Street under file DASZ 6 of 2025. In accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw, this is a combined hearing and the following item will also be heard at the same time, namely, Item 2 is a variance at 678 McGregor Street under file DAV 140993/2025D. So at this time, we'll hand it over to the public service to give us an overview on the matter.
Thank you. The site is on the west side of McGregor Street, which is an arterial road at the north corner of the Matheson Avenue intersection into Jefferson neighborhood of the Mynarski Ward. The site is 9,859 square feet in area, and it's currently occupied by a commercial use, specifically an automobile repair and sales shop. And the property is accessed by three approaches, one from McGregor Street, one from Matheson Avenue, and the north side from the public lane. The applicant is proposing to consolidate the underlying lots and rezone the site to C2 commercial community to expand the existing commercial use on the subject site with a 607 square foot addition to the existing commercial building. The existing building includes an office for auto sales and a 2-bay auto repair shop. This would add a third bay that's approximately 29 feet deep by 20.95 feet wide on the north side of the existing building, abutting the public lane. This would provide, I've mentioned, an additional service bay. The building would be clad with brick and it would have a 12 by 14 foot overhead door facing McGregor Street. The garbage enclosure that's currently in the location of the proposed addition would be relocated to the northeast corner of the site, abutting the public lane to the north and backing onto McGregor Street to the east with a new wood garbage enclosure. In addition, the drawings submitted show the existing approach on McGregor Street would be closed, leaving access points via Matheson and the public lane. And details have been provided for a 6 foot, 5 foot high wrought iron style ornamental fence along the McGregor Street and Matheson Avenue frontages. So there are some street improvements proposed there. A 6 foot, sorry,
Paul was the front
6.5 feet
along McGregor.
along McGregor and Matheson, yeah. So a 6 foot high wood picket fence would be provided along the public lane, so an opaque fence on that side. There's a concurrent variance application for the following items: no rear yard to the proposed addition, that's on the north side abutting the public lane. A reduced landscape setback from the proposed addition to the abutting R1 district. No street edge landscaping. No pedestrian pathway connection to the public sidewalk, an accessory parking area with no front yard to Matheson Avenue and no west side yard instead of 10 feet. And finally, 3 parking stalls being adjacent to a wall or a fence with a width of 8 feet instead of 10 feet. The public service is supportive of both applications for the following reasons. The proposed expansion is for a business that's existed in the community for over 10 years. Actually, I think over 20. The existing building and use of the site has been there for more than 20 years. When you go back.
It's been there for, my dad used to take his car there. In like 1969.
There we go. So it's been there for quite some time. And in fact, the use is not permitted in the C1 district, but it has non-conforming rights because it's been there for quite some time. So the applications are triggered by the proposed expansion of that one bay addition. So yeah, as I can see as we can see in the aerials, the site and the buildings have been in this current condition since before 1997. Didn't know it was that long. And the proposed expansion would help move vehicles through more quickly and provide site improvements, as mentioned, including that ornamental fencing and the closing of the approach on McGregor Street. So less interference with the public sidewalk there. And the cleanup of the corner of the site that's currently used for outside storage and waste. From the perspective of scale and built form, the proposed addition would be a 1-story single door service bay, continuing the existing building wall. And the proposed addition abuts the public lane where it would provide those improvements in cleaning up the site. I just said that it's a continuation of the existing building wall, the existing building massing to the public lane. So it cleans up that corner of the site nicely. We can see that there's a number of tires outside storage, some garbage is located there, so it does improve the site in that respect. And it it's compatible with the adjacent land uses, providing a slight increase in intensity with those site improvements. We are proposing that final plans be submitted to the Director of PP&D for review prior to the issuance of building permits, just for a final review of details and building materials and everything. Yeah.
Okay, Um,
Do you have any questions, Councillor?
yeah, I just
Before
have,
we move on to delegations? Okay, go ahead.
just a couple of more on this, application. So I believe it used to be a golf gas station, that lot, and, motor vehicle repair. Did they have to do a soil toxicity thing with this particular lot?
I think if it was residential development, it would matter more. I'm not sure if it's required for all excavation or not. It's not a change in use, so I'm not sure that's required.
I'm not saying it, okay, all right.
I can certainly look further into that. That would be a provincial requirement.
Right, okay. That's all I have for now.
Is the fencing going around the entire property or just the back end of the property back lane?
The ornamental fence?
The ornamental
The
fence?
ornamental fence will be along the east side, along McGregor, and the south side along Matheson.
Okay. So no, so that fencing that's there along the back lane, is gonna be replaced with,
On just north of the approach, yes, and then oh, let me double check actually.
yeah, cause I could see, I'm just looking in Google View. That I see where the new addition body shop is gonna be going. It does mention 6-foot picket fence.
That's wood on the back.
Yeah, there's a wood, but is that wood fencing being replaced with, we call it a picket fence?
No.
No, I guess they're gonna keep the picket fence?
I think it's.
Yes,
Yeah, existing fence to remain.
right, and then just east, oh, pardon me, let me get my bearings, because it's angled. Where's the street edge, the northeast corner? The garbage enclosure is in that corner, so that would abut the lane, and then the ornamental fence would extend in front of that along the street edge.
It's along the brink. Okay, I see. Cause there seems to be, when I look in Google View, a bit of a driveway approach. It looks like a driveway approach, so
Yes.
is that driver approach is gonna be closed off and the sidewalk is gonna be fixed?
On McGregor, yes.
Yes, okay. Okay,
Thanks for reminding me too. So you're calling the front yard, it's got a McGregor address, but you're calling the front yard the Matheson
Yes.
frontage.
That's correct. That's the zoning determination, is that Matheson counts as the front yard.
It's always confusing.
I hear you.
No, because like, I got another automobile related service that's grandfathered. They want a 6.5-foot fence on Main Street, and it is a Main Street address.
Mhm.
But the driveway into it is on Flora. So, anyway, so this, anyway, that's a different thing, but one would have to rezone in order to, but if you rezone, you lose your grandfather, right? So,
But we can speak further about that site offline if you'd like.
well, it's a different, Main Street's PDO is there, right? So that's, yeah. It doesn't allow automobile servicing, so anything that's there on Main Street is grandfathered, right? Anyway, okay, I think that clarifies it for me, and that's a 4-foot fence along Matheson, decorative fence.
Along Matheson, oh,
I see it 4 feet high.
Oh, pardon me.
Fence 4 feet high.
it is 4 feet high, my mistake.
Yeah, because firefighters fight from the front street, right? And that's why we have. Anyway, that's why I found it amusing, it's got a McGregor address, but that's the side yard, so anyway, okay.
Good, no further questions. Okay, we'll move on.
Yes, we'll call up the applicant, Kim Strand. You want to grab a seat at the end there, and we'll put 5 minutes on the clock for you.
Welcome.
Good morning, Madam
Morning.
Chairperson. Good morning, planners and councillors. Should I present a little?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've got 5 minutes to present. And
Sure.
if there's any questions, we'll ask you afterwards.
Perfect. So on behalf of Sego Autos, I am intending to give a planning rationale surrounding the context and the development of the site at 678 McGregor. The project is an existing auto body shop, as you're aware. They are hoping to put an addition to the existing structure. The area is zoned C1 with access to major transit routes. The auto body shop has been serving the community I had since 2010, but clearly it's been there longer. The project provides commercial opportunities and affordable servicing to the residents of the area. And there's a high demand for such services within the community. Currently, there are quite a few parking spots, but with 18 to 20 cars on site at any given time, well within the guidelines of the zoning bylaws. We are proposing C2 for adapted use. This addition will offer flexibility while implementing plans for intensification and adaptation in response to the changing market conditions. We feel this community and the city will benefit from this project as it meets the diverse needs of the community. Architectural design features will enhance the culture and the creativity in this part of the city. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, go ahead, Councillor Edie.
It's quite the job to get it designed. Get the extra bay and stuff, but, so you're saying under the bylaw, there's enough parking space. But, when you talk about parking, does that include vehicles that don't have a license that might be being sold on that lot?
I'm not aware of any such activities. From what I was told by the client, vehicles come in to be serviced and then they're taken away once the services have been performed. But if they are being sold on the property, I was not aware of any of those activities.
The subdivision is for, what is the called again?
You want to
Yes, yes.
Sorry?
What's the subdivision rezoning?
C2.
C2, right? So that's so the operation is bigger and the use is, like you said, auto body, but I think I heard the category it's under talks about car sales.
It might be sales of like oil or lubricants and so on and so forth for automotive use, but not the car itself, because as far as I'm aware, these guys are strictly mechanics and that's all they do.
So the question is, the community has indicated over years of parked cars on the street without a license plate. That denotes to me that vehicles probably for sale with it has any license on it versus doing auto body work on a licensed motor vehicle and then it being moved out by the customer once the job's complete.
I can confirm that for you if you would like, but from as far as my limited knowledge is confirmed, I was brought in just to design it based on just adding another bay for them to service, because as their business has increased, they're finding it increasingly difficult to add more, take on more work because there's not enough bays to service these vehicles. And that is the knowledge I had. I honestly, this is the first time I'm hearing about the sales aspect of it.
Okay, that's good. Anyway, is the applicant on behalf of the owner, is the owner coming to speak?
No, I just asked him, he couldn't register in time.
I think why Councillor Edie is asking, because in the report, it says the applicant intends to consolidate and rezone the site to bring the existing use into compliance and facilitate the expansion of existing auto sales, repair and service uses. So I think the auto sales language there is what Councillor Edie is looking to for some clarity.
I apologize. It probably was just me picking up the bylaw from the zoning bylaw and because it was classified under C1 as and C2 to be automotive sales, repair, and that's probably what it was. If that is what's misleading, then I apologize. That's my mistake.
Well, that's understanding. My office gets complaints when businesses are overextending their operations, which includes having vehicles parked out on the street or illegally parked elsewhere. And so the complaint has been unlicensed plate motor vehicles, which denotes to me that's a vehicle that isn't owned yet. Insurance hasn't been filed or anything like that. So anyway, that's all I was trying to get at. I wanted to talk to the owner because the owner owns a lot, 3 lots actually, on the north side of that back lane on Macadam. I know they're trying to comply with the rules, and there are some intentions with that lot. Well, there was intentions many, like 10 years ago that came to this county. It seems to me that probably was originally purchased so that there's more space to put cars, which is an illegal use right now on like living on the spot or whatever vehicles. Anyway, so you can't clarify, discuss any of that because as far as you know, you were just making sure that this is code, is that correct? So you weren't asked to put together, like you're saying, it does comply. It's got 18 parking spaces. That complies, but for this operation, the city estimates how much space you need to park in the vehicles. But so you didn't have to prepare a parking plan for the vehicles that are at least being worked on?
The overflow situation, there was a solution for that. The clients have been in talks with Tartan Towing and they will be taking away any excess overflow of vehicles that are not within the parking spots. And because that their location is 41 Higgins, which is pretty close. And since they are hiring their services for the towing of these vehicles, they will be impounded in their parking lot.
Storing them there until
And then they're
sold or whatever.
yes. So, well, I don't know about sold, but they're going to be paying them to take them away and bring them back once work is done, and therefore pay them the fees to tow and store the vehicles off-site to especially avoid this congestion closer to the site.
How many employees work in this business?
As far as I'm aware, there's 5 mechanics and 2 managers.
7 parking spots of the 18.
Our employees, which is kind of what I had placed them closer to the existing fence on the, let's say, the west side.
One at North Street.
Sorry,
By the back lane.
not the back lane, but the one, the corner of Matheson and the adjoining residential.
So, okay. Southeast corner of the lot. Right? That area?
Pretty much, you're right. So.
Okay, any other questions?
So they're adding the extra bay, which I think will actually help move vehicles in and out of there faster. Because now you got 3 bays instead of 2. So there's an existing fence along the back lane, I think there, that sort of aligns with the building itself. And that's where the bay is going in. how close to that fence is the building gonna be? Cause there's what they call windrows, right? Back lanes get plowed and but that fence will remain there to protect the north side of the new bay.
We are intending to keep the fence, but if the structural engineer has a concern with it, then we would have to revisit that.
I'm sorry, but
If the structural engineer has a concern with the building and the kind of footing that is being used, we will have to reconsider that, but if that is a stipulation to keep the fence, we will.
I don't wanna get the call later, oh, the city damaged my building. So that's the only reason I'm asking. I just wanna make sure that everybody's aware that huge windrows could end up there every year. How strong that fence is. And
Right.
must be at least some distance between the north wall and that fence. Is there? What's the distance?
Currently, we had very minimal, almost 6 inches is what we had it at, only because we could not accommodate the overhead door. If we went any further, a less wider building would not make any sense.
Right.
But if need be, we could add some additional materials to ensure that the fence or the integrity of the
Okay, I just.
back lane is maintained.
Yeah, I was just curious, is it a half a foot or
It was
between the north wall and fence or like? That's all the questions I have, Madam Chair.
That's good. I don't have any questions. Very thorough questions, Councillor Edie. Hey, thank you for your time. Thank you.
You can come back.
It's not really an appeal, so she wouldn't have a time to come back. We're just gonna go straight into questions of the administration and then motions.
Well, the applicant does have the directive to come back and speak in rebuttal.
Oh,
We
okay.
do have someone else registered in opposition as well.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I'll just check for the gallery if there's anyone here who wishes to speak in support of this application. All right, seeing none, then we'll move on to opposition. Via Zoom, we have Fadia Delank. Fadia, if you want to go ahead and unmute your mic, start your video, and we'll put 5 minutes on the clock for you as well. Thank you.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning. Can you guys see and hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. We're good.
So I live on Matheson, and my husband and I would like to oppose, along with, we've spoken to some neighbors recently in the past few months, and they also agree with this. The auto body shop occupies Matheson Street, where the residents that live there park, and they also occupy, before the construction, they occupy McGregor as well, and their lots are always full, where they have an overflow, and it makes it unsafe for us to come off of Matheson onto McGregor when it was open. Currently, it's still under construction. But when it was open, to come onto McGregor off of Matheson or off of McGregor onto Matheson, we have a lot of families. I myself have small children, and it's a very big blind spot for us. Several times as well on Matheson, more times than not, they will have their cars also parked on Matheson, pushing us residents who live there, park our cars on the street, to move way further up, where a lot of people don't have the space to park their cars in front of their houses because we've been moved up due to them parking their cars. When the construction was happening, which is still going on, they where the road was closed, they would use that closed bay there right in front where Matheson meets McGregor to park all these cars, where we then could not enter to go onto our own road to get to our house. Even just yesterday, and I've got several pictures, I didn't know if I was able to upload them or not, where yesterday my husband was coming home from work and there was a vehicle So parking is on your going on off of McGregor onto Matheson, for example. I don't know the direction. I apologize. We park on the right, and so people come and go on the left side. And they had vehicles parked on the left side. Nobody's in them, just parked. So my husband had to find a way very tight to get his car to turn around and then go back out of the back lane and find another way into to get his car to be parked. We do not believe that adding an extra bay is going to help with their business and fixing their cars. We believe that it's just going to be worse for us residents. They've already got a huge overflow of cars. And when we bought the house in 2022, there was a different business, a mechanic shop that was there, and he did not have any overflow at all. And so now come when these guys had moved in and we see this huge overflow of cars where they're on occupying both sides of the street plus their full lot. It's just we don't think that having another bay is going to help it. It's only going to make it worse.
Thank you for that. Really appreciate your concerns. Councillor Edie, do you have any follow-up questions?
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the problem with, so you're traveling east up to McGregor and you want to go south on McGregor. Is that where you're saying you can't see oncoming traffic to be able
Correct. Going from Matheson onto McGregor, their shop is right at the corner there. So in front of the street parking there where the shop is, they would have their vehicles all lined up right up until the very end of the street. And us trying to turn left or right because they were such big vehicles, like it was a blind spot for us. So we would have to creep up closer to try to see if we're like the street is clear for us to actually make the turn either left or right, and there wasn't any oncoming traffic.
So you're saying they're parking vehicles between the Matheson driveway and McGregor? Is that what you're saying?
On the road on McGregor, right in front of their shop. That's before the construction. They would have that whole street would be full of their cars, and then once you would take that right turn onto McGregor, it would also be on that street where because right after their shop. They don't have a back lane really, like right behind their shop. It's more on the side where the resident houses start, like our houses start. And so they would be parking their cars also along Matheson, where we would then have to, instead of, for example, my house is here and I would park here, I would now have to park further up. And then, unload children, unload stuff. But now my house is like a distance because they've been occupying the street as well.
So, well, yeah, okay. So the front street parking, that's kind of a different issue than what you're talking about. That view to turn on to McGregor, whether you're going to go north or south on McGregor. But if you're going to go north, I don't know what's on the other corner, the southwest corner of Matheson and McGregor. But so if you're turning left onto McGregor, whatever's there, if that's causing a view problem, it's not related, right, to this. So it's really what you're saying is in order to turn south onto McGregor off Matheson, you're saying there's motor vehicles parked too close to the corner.
Where it gives you kind of like a blind spot.
On McGregor, right? You're saying they're creating a blind spot with motor vehicles parked.
Correct.
So you're aware though they can't park in front of the sidewalk on the north side of Matheson. So those vehicles should be parked further back from Matheson. You're saying that's not enough room to see what's happening on McGregor in order to turn?
Before the construction had started, used to have all their cars parked in front of where on the McGregor Road, but in front of their shop. So it was their shop, it was the sidewalk, and then it was the road. And so they would have a whole bunch of cars parked right in front there. And so if you are coming correct southbound on McGregor towards Matheson, and then you're going to turn onto Matheson, for example, again, you couldn't see because in front of the shop there were cars, and then to turn in there also were cars parked on McGregor. And so if there was somebody coming off of Matheson onto McGregor, you wouldn't be able to see them right away. And then you coming in as well, either coming in or going out, it was more of a blind spot where you would have to take like extra caution just to try to see, try to get through both ways.
Right.
If that makes sense. Sorry.
Well, that's okay. And then, so there's already on the back lane though, there's already a 6-foot fence all the way to the front of the lot on the back lane side. Is that right?
If I'm being honest with you, just because of the construction, I haven't been down that road very often. And with the parking, like I don't enter that way anymore just because the construction, and then I've got kids, so I never want to risk going that way anymore. So I'm not sure about the fence situation.
The administration can clarify. Go ahead, Simi.
Counselor, on the back lane side, the fence extends to the approach into the site. It doesn't extend further than that.
Oh, okay. So there's no fence when you get to McGregor and you're turning in or out of the back lane.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Have you seen, sorry, Councillor, if they do have a question, have you seen the new plans that's available online? Because what I can see from the new plans, it looks like they've created a driveway approach off of Matheson.
Yeah, there's a
To
driveway.
go into.
There is a driveway off.
Because right now, it looks like it's fenced, it's obstructed right now with a red, it looks like a red fence, red parking fence. And I think
On the Matheson side of
on the Matheson side, there is a fence that extends from the sidewalk,
So they
really
blocked off
close
your driveway.
off the driveway approach.
Oh, they're gonna change that now.
Now with the new plans, they're changing that by removing that fence, and they're actually gonna create a driveway approach into the property off of Matheson, which
They're gonna
I think-
reestablish the driveway.
I think may alleviate some of that conflict that you're talking about parking, because now they won't be able to park in front of the driveway approach.
Could ask
So I'm
on-
trying to ask the question of the resident, Councillor Edie. Are you aware of that, the new plans off of McGregor, off of Matheson?
Sorry, it cut off a little bit. Are you asking me?
Yes, I'm asking you. The new plans on DMIS is showing that the driveway approach into the business is now going to be on Matheson Street. So right now you can see there's a driveway approach, but it's blocked off with a fence.
The fence is open. There's an opening.
There is an opening right now?
Yes, it's always had an opening.
Okay. So what you're saying is the cars that are parked on Matheson still park along Matheson from the sidewalk all the way to your house?
Yes, all the way down, which causes everybody else to then kind of bump down, if that makes sense.
Okay, so do they even park in front of their driveway approach?
At the end of the day, they will park their cars just in front. Like I believe it fits 2 cars side by side just to kind of close it off. But they still do have all their cars overflowing onto the street and everywhere else.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. Go ahead, Councillor Eby.
So I just, in those terms, because I was thinking about the block view, think it's a bit separate. When you go further west on Matheson, there's always a debate whether you're building a school or whatever you're doing. There's always a debate about, you know, where the employees are parking. First question, I need clarification from Ms. Rez. How many feet is it from the driveway, well, the reestablishment of the driveway on Mountain to McGregor, to the sidewalk on McGregor? What's the distance?
It's approximately 20 or approximately 30 feet. But that's not including, that includes the flare. So without the flare, there is space for one vehicle. It's approximately 20 feet from the curve of the approach on Matheson to the curve onto McGregor, pardon me.
There's one parking spot.
Yeah, it's enough length for one space.
Yeah.
That said, I'm not sure if a vehicle would be permitted to park in that space. There's no signage saying otherwise. There has been some communication between our zoning field officer around enforcement and public works streets constable. And I can ask, I'm to follow up with him following the hearing, and I can ask if there should be signage in this location with regard to parking and visibility there.
Yeah.
You can certainly
Yeah,
ask a follow-up question.
yeah, I mean, there's rules. There's rules of the road about where you can park and there is a stop sign at McGregor on Matheson, right?
Yes.
Depends on the direction of traffic, I don't know, but there has to be some distance away from the public sidewalk and some distance from a private driveway, because that's what this is. It's a private driveway.
So to the private driveway, not including the flare, it is, yeah, up from the sidewalk to that flare is 30 feet. Or to the minus, including the flare. From the sidewalk to the approach is 30 feet.
30. Okay. I'll get more clarification later. So do you think if there was no parking between McGregor and their driveway, you think that would provide vision to be able to decide when to turn on to McGregor?
Sorry, it cut out there.
Pardon me?
It cut out there. I didn't hear the very ending.
But it is taking a parking spot away from the street itself. Okay.
Do you have any other questions, Councillor Eby?
No, I don't. No.
Okay, thank you for coming out and expressing your concerns.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Peter.
All right, checking with the gallery if there's anyone else here who wishes to speak in opposition to this matter. Anyone for information? Seeing none, those are all the registrants that I had for today. So if the committee wishes, we can ask. Yeah.
So I have just a further question. Although Mr. Rez is not a traffic engineer, but have you ever seen putting a condition to have no parking allowed on a section of street related to a subdivision?
I think that I have not personally. I think the challenge with that is that we can't register it on title because that is within the public realm rather than on private property. It is something that we can certainly connect with Public Works with as a follow-up, but I don't believe we can condition something on the public road.
So we can't tell traffic to put in a no parking area.
Could you put a condition on providing a parking management program? You know, we've done that with like residential where we've asked owners to provide some kind of parking management strategy. Could we do something similar to a business where we ask them to provide a parking management?
Like
plan.
like having their employees park on their parking lot versus taking up any space on a residential street.
I think we could certainly look at something like that, but if I may, that'd probably be, there do appear to be auto sales here on the owner's Facebook page. It does flag auto sales in communications with the zoning field officer. There have been complaints and enforcement regarding parking of vehicles on the property north of this site, which the owner has addressed. They've actually blocked those spots off with tires and signage saying no parking here. They do own those sites with the hope of redeveloping them for multifamily or mixed use sometime in the future. So there was parking on the vacant site in particular, but that's apparently no longer an issue. He has connected with Public Works about vehicles associated with this business with no plates parked on, license plates parked on in a public right of way. So there's been enforcement and follow-up with that regard. So the ongoing issue of the spillover, the applicant has spoken about Tartan Towing being contracted to move some of these vehicles to another lot at 41 Higgins. Hopefully that will help address this issue. If we were to do a parking management plan, there's no actual variance for parking is the issue. So I'm not sure that we are hearing from them that they intend to relocate vehicles to 41 Higgins. I wonder if that is satisfactory, and if we connect with Public Works as a follow-up from this item, requesting, perhaps from the councilor's office, requesting signage between the Matheson approach and McGregor, that there would be no parking in that location. But as you noted, the trade-off for that is it pushes parking further up the street. So.
Well, anyway, like the residential parking, anyway, there's always a misunderstanding about that. That's for the general public, not for the property owner who lives right in front of it, unless they need a loading zone for someone with a disability. Right?
Well, I'm just looking here at the recommendations. It says here, item 2A, the developer enter into a zoning agreement with the city pursuant to subsection. Owner must submit plans showing the location design of any and all proposed buildings, accessory parking areas, private approaches, garbage enclosures, fencing, landscaping, and freestanding signage. Is there a need to kind of
Well, we'll have it come back here.
beef up the accessory parking areas to include I don't know, strategies to optimize the use of parking resources? I don't know, that's just trying to think.
Yeah.
It does
Because
talk
they
about
have-
accessory parking areas. So is there something we can kind of put some language in there?
The owner wasn't here. Speak to that. And ask some specific questions. So, anyway, if we can get plan approval back here, at least we'll have a.
Yeah, can we do that?
We can-
Plan approval?
Change plan approval to community committee?
Yes,
Certainly.
that might work.
Oh, I wouldn't. And community committee, so that all.
And community committee, pardon me, yes.
Yeah, we could do that, and then we can talk about the parking, and then maybe that'd be an opportunity for the owner to come in and talk about the accessory parking. And
Yeah,
what
just
is
how
their-
they're dealing, because the thing is, how many automobiles, like, are they gonna use all 18 spots for automobiles up for sale? Because if they are, then that's untenable, right? But they're not selling cars on the lot over in, on Higgins, which is, anyway, we can call on those questions under plan approval, Mr. Rivers. Yeah, okay.
Which section is that? What number is that? Mr.
That is, as we noted, condition 2A1,
One, yeah.
that the wording would be revised.
Oh, on the owner lands to the city for approval by the director of planning or to the issuance of any building. So in there, we would add,
And.
And- you got that, Peter? I'd be amenable to that amendment.
So we'll work on that, but we still have to hear a rebuttal from the applicant.
Okay. You don't have any other questions?
Just hang on,
Yeah.
just one clarification. So right now you can't get any exact measurement between that fence and the building at this time?
Between the fence and the.
The north, yeah, the back lane side fence. and the new bay.
It's, well, they've applied for very 0 foot setback
Zero.
or no setback, that's correct, yeah. And the
Okay, so
plans-
that
the
means
plans
the
that we
fence
have
won't be
shown-
there.
Well, it shows the fence, I don't have, it might have been rounded to 0 by zoning. We
Well,
do.
it's at least 4 inches wide, that fence.
Right,
It's a 4 inch post to build a fence, right? So, anyway, I'm just putting that up there because I don't want to get the call from the applicant that the city damaged their building because of snow plowing, right? I don't think we can put anything in that motion that we move, but they need to understand that, right? Sort of base their building there has to withstand huge snow windrows, right?
in that case, Counselor, would you want to modify the variance, the approval of the variance to provide a modest setback to accommodate the fence?
Yeah, but then they won't be able to have a function the door, right?
They'd probably require a custom door in that case, or I don't know.
No, I think they can handle
Their
through what they
requirements.
build the base. Whatever the base is, right? Maybe it's concrete wall up to a certain point, if you know what I'm saying. So it can withstand the pressure of huge amounts of snow,
So that would probably.
that they're not gonna be allowed to shovel back into the back lane, just to make that clear as well, because that's illegal, right? So, anyway, I'm just making it clear in public on this, that's it. So it's a zero variance to 0. Okay,
That's correct.
okay.
Okay, good. Thanks for that clarity. Okay, go ahead, Peter.
So at this time, we can call back the applicant to speak in rebuttal to comments made, however, no new information at this time. So if you'd like to have a seat.
Just to, I guess, address the whole parking issue,
Mhm.
I will definitely get a parking plan in place with the applicant to make sure that none of the overflow is hindering any kind of traffic on any of the streets. That complaint will be taken back to them and considered very seriously. In addition to that, the fence and as far as the construction is, Counselor mentioned, we will be proposed concrete blocks. The existing building is made of CMU, so we were gonna carry forward the same materiality. But we will take extra precautions to make sure that if we can reinforce it, to avoid any snow plow damage from the back lane for sure.
Thank you. I have no more questions of you. Do you think when plan approval is gonna come back here? Can you convince the applicant?
Absolutely. I will make sure that he does. I will register him myself. Good.
All right.
All right,
Much
thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right, I will entertain, if you have no further questions, Counselor Edie, I'll entertain.
I don't think so.
You get a chance. Yeah, I'll wait for you.
Mr. Prinsley has the, just gotta get my password in here.
Okay,
So he's got the text for the amendment. And that goes into the subdivision report, not the variance report. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, I gotta get to this. I move that the report of the public service be taken as read.
all those in favor? Aye. It's carried. Go ahead.
I move the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor? Aye, it's carried.
I move that the recommendation of public service. Should I say not be concurred?
No, it's concurring with amendments.
Oh, yeah, to be concurred. Okay, I move that the recommendation of the public service be concurred in as amended and forwarded to the Standing Committee on Property and Development.
And so just for the benefit of everybody here, the amendment would be that in recommendation AI, we're adding the words in quotations and the Lord Selkirk West Kildonan Community Committee. And quotations immediately after, open quotations, Director of Planning, Property and Development, in brackets, Director.
Great, and supporting the businesses existed when there weren't as many cars out on the street back in the 60s, 70s, but it's always been a commercial operation working on cars and actually getting gas at one point. It's long gone there. I mean, this business that's in there now, they're operating under, they're increasing C1 to a C2, which means they're having a successful business. And I think that it's important for them to have the third bay because that will move cars in and out of that lot faster because they're able to work on, obviously they have a certain level of customers and so this will help them deal with it, I believe. Closing off the driveway on McGregor is, it's a good idea. They will be able to approach from the back lane or from the front street. From Matheson, gotta be clear, from Matheson, considered to be the front street. We have parking rules on streets that say you can only park you have to park a certain distance away from an intersection or motor vehicle controls, signage, and so on. Those have been established, those rules, enough distance so that people can see to turn on and off of various streets. In this case, it's not like a 8-foot tall bush that's overgrown and blocking the view, or even a tree that's substantial enough to cause people not to be able to see. There are similar circumstances happening all along Main Street in the Mynarski ward. So, I mean, I appreciate the concern, but if parking's allowed on McGregor, again, it has to be a certain distance away from the intersection. So those concerns, and I'm hoping to see, and she could bring back a plan. I'm hoping to see within that parking plan, where are the employees parking? The use of the parking spaces on the lot for motor vehicles to be sold, I don't think that would be appropriate. So that's kind of what I'd like to see in parking plan. And those are my supporting reasons that I'm supporting this subdivision to what is it, C2?
Sure, I'll just add some quick comments. I agree with what Councillor Edie had mentioned. I think it's, a balance to be able to support businesses within, a residential area that does provide services to the local area residents. Obviously, they're coming forward to do some upgrades and expansions, and it's always good to see that local businesses are investing in the community, which is good. But also being able to balance the needs of the residences there as well when it comes to parking. And like Councillor Yee had mentioned, there are rules to the roads, the public right of ways. And I'm happy to hear from the delegates that they are interested in working with the neighbors and coming up with a solution with some kind of parking management plan. And even seeing the designs online, I can see a future where they are trying to mitigate some of the parking issues with closing some public right of ways and allowing a better kind of traffic flow in and out of their business. So I can see there's definitely some positive movements here, and I think it's great to give businesses an opportunity to do that. And we've heard from delegation, the concerns of the residences, and I hope that the business is hearing that loud and clear, and that when we do come back here for plan approval, which I'm very supportive of, that may some fulsome plans. So those are my supporting comments for Councillor Eady, and I support his motion and amendments. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that's carried. Go ahead, Councillor
I
Eady.
move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried. Moving on to
Get
the
to
variance.
variance and
I'll just read out that respecting the subdivision and rezoning, please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning, and all persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
thank you.
Councillor Eady on the variance.
Yeah. Here.
Sure.
Okay, I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
Favor?
Aye. I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
Favor? Aye, and that's carried.
I move that in accordance with subsection 240, subsection 247, 3 of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg, any applicable secondary plans, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, use, safety, and convenience of adjoining property and adjacent area, including including it separated from the property by a street, or is it that? I think that, and waterway, sorry. Is the minimum modification required to relieve the injurious effect on the zoning bylaw on the applicant's property, and is compatible with the area in which the property is situated. Same supporting reasons. Just on my supporting reasons though, I just mark a warning again, issue with snow plowing of the back lane and the north wall. I just mention that for the applicants.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye, and that's carried.
I move that the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in.
All those in favor? Aye,
And,
and
oh,
that's carried.
sorry. And the variance be approved.
Correct. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Move that the public hearing with respect to this matter application be concluded.
Perfect. All those in favor? Aye, and that's carried unanimously.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
I think there's some request for a quick review on to our next hearing. Okay, we'll do a 5-minute break, be back here at 11:50 a.m. Thank you. Welcome back to the public hearing portion of the Lawrence Selkirk West Kildonan Community Committee for October 2nd. We are moving on to our next one, item number 3, and I'll have Peter walk us through, please.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Item 3 is a subdivision and rezoning at 201 Layla Avenue under file DASZ 25/2025 in accordance with the City of Winnipeg Charter and the Development Procedures Bylaw. This is a combined hearing, and the following item will also be heard at the same time, namely, item 4 is a variance at 201 Layla Avenue under file DAV 160387/2025B. So at this time, we'll hand it over to our planner to give us an overview.
Thank you. The subject site is located on the north side of Leela Avenue between Main Street and Aitken Street. It's at the lot abutting the public lane, which serves Main Street commercial and multifamily uses. It's in the Margaret Park neighborhood of the Minarski ward. The site is, and I believe I had a typo here with the, pardon me, with the lot area. I'll come back to that. So the site is accessed by a concrete lane, as mentioned, serving the commercial multifamily uses on Main Street. And the application itself involves the subdivision of 351 square feet of land on the northeast corner of the site for a corner cut into ease the turning of the junction of the lane there. And to rezone the subject site from an R1M residential single family medium district to RMFM mature communities PDO1 district for multifamily use. The applicant intends to construct a 6-unit multifamily development with 6 parking spaces, having access via the concrete public lane. So this is a 1-to-1 parking ratio. The drawings submitted show a 2-story building approximately 26 feet in length with 2 basement units and 4 2-story units above grade. Each unit has a separate entrance. They're located on the front facade facing Leela, the east elevation facing the flanking public lane, and on the rear elevation facing the rear public lane. No entrances are proposed on the internal side yard facing the existing single family use. The proposed building is offset with the west side of the building extending further into the rear yard than the east side. And so this has an effect of screening those entrances from that single family use. The proposed building footprint is it's about 2,111 square feet, which represents a lot coverage of 33.47%. And the proposed front yard setback would be 15.25 feet and a rear yard setback with a rear yard setback of approximately 31 feet. The elevations show a mix of materials including engineered wood siding, hardy panels, and stucco. The entrances for the 2-story units are just over 3 feet or just under 4 feet above grade, and the entrances for the basement and second floor units are located in the rear yard at grade. There is a related variance application, as mentioned, for the front yard reduction from 22 feet to 15.25 feet. For east and west side yard setbacks of 6 feet instead of 10 feet. And for insufficient street edge landscaping and no buffering of the parking area. We are supportive of the variances requested with the exception of the street edge landscaping variance, as there is space to accommodate the required landscaping. And we have recommended approval of the subdivision and rezoning because the subject site is located on an arterial route and on a transitional lot at the east end of the block. As mentioned, abutting the lane that serves the uses along Main Street. The site is well served by it has great access to Winnipeg Transit and a mix of commercial uses and residential scale. It is right by the Main Street urban mixed use designated mixed use corridor with a mix of amenities. The lot itself is larger in size than most of the block, and in that sense, it is atypical. From the perspective of scale and built form, the proposed building would be well below the maximum permitted height of 70 feet in the proposed zoning district and below the permitted, even below the maximum permitted height of 35 feet in the existing R1 district. As well, the applicant is proposing that east side yard of 6 feet from the proposed building to the west side property line shared with the neighboring dwelling. So it reflects the infill guidelines criteria. The applicant has worked well with us to incorporate that feedback and align with the guidelines. So we do see that it is compatible with adjacent land uses, providing a few more options with a modest increase in density. And it bridges existing development in the area, the rest of the block, with what's permitted along Main Street and exists along Main Street. With that, I welcome any questions.
Sure.
I have,
You have questions? I have questions. Yeah, go ahead.
didn't notice that, but are you saying there's a parking variance?
There is no parking variance. It's one
So
to
they'll
one.
have 6 stalls,
That's correct.
and that's off the back lane.
Yes. The
Okay.
only variance related to parking is for no buffering of the parking area, which is a standard variance when there's stalls access from the lane.
You had mentioned something about landscaping that you were not supportive of. Could you state that again?
Sure thing. There is a variance requested for insufficient street edge landscaping.
Okay.
There is some landscaping provided. Okay. But there is enough space in that 15-foot setback to provide landscaping.
Oh, that's in the front.
That's
Okay.
correct, in the front. And the applicant is looking to maintain existing trees. Really, it's a slight deficiency in the number of shrubs, and there is space to provide those.
More shrubs.
It could be clustered, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole front is bush, right? Right now, as it exists right now, it's all like a privacy bush or whatever you want to call it.
It is at this point, I think it is, in the proposed plans, they are being removed with the existing tree being maintained.
Oh, okay. Right. So on plan approval, you're expecting to see some landscaping in the front yard.
And it's not a large number, it's just a few more shrubs that need to be added, so it's something that it's certainly avoidable.
I had it,
Do you have
okay,
any other questions?
so this is a subdivision. Is the 361 square feet, that angle taking a piece off of that property, is that being provided to the city related to land dedication and what they would be paying 10% lieu with the new subdivision? Is that, are they still subject to the 10%?
They're still subject to the 10%, that's my understanding. This is separate from land dedication.
Right. Well, okay, so they didn't. So I guess you don't know, but is the city paying for that 361 square feet?
Check the ACG report, but unfortunately I don't know this offhand. I think this is a standard public works requirement where there is a rezoning at the corner of a commercial lane.
Yeah.
So because the site abuts that commercial lane, it creates easier movement along the lane as well as for garbage and snow removal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand it. Yeah, there's an apartment block, which my mom used to live in. And there's businesses along there, so easy right-hand turns on the Leela. Helpful.
Okay, we'll move on. Caitlin, for the questions, go ahead, Peter.
Call up the applicant, Mr. Jay Singh. If you can grab a seat there and we'll put 5 minutes on the clock.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Edie, for allowing me to discuss this 201 Leela's development with you. We've been, I do have a little presentation if you would like to see it. What's this look like today? So pictures of it.
Sure.
Yeah, if you can just send me a copy after the meeting, that'd be great.
Did you end up emailing any of us a copy of your presentation, or is this something on your USB drive you want to put up on the screen?
I will put up on the screen.
Oh, okay. We can help promote.
Yep.
Yeah.
Josh will let me know.
Okay.
So as I discussed earlier, it is pretty much aligns with with the existing uses around that area. We wanted to kind of beautify the area. That house has been empty and dilapidated at this point, and the goal is to bring back to life with new modern design, as well as just to share with you what's that location look like today, and what is our view is to get this one going in a future state. So what we have today there is a existing house built in 1930s, significant overgrown bushes and so on, and has been empty for a while. But our goal is to develop into a beautiful, energy efficient construction house with different materials and guidelines as planner Madam mentioned. It is two access from the front, two from the sides, and two from the back, with no request for the existing parking. But since the land was taken from the public works perspective, that's where the bushes were. We had reduced a little bit the bushes so we don't overgrow them and so on. But as a developer and builder, we are open for any suggestion from the planning team, and if there is a landscaping measures need to be taken to make this one is more beautiful and align with the existing properties, we will be open to do so. So with that, I do not have any question, but I wanted to show our compliance as well as thank the planning team, which we have worked with them almost, I think it's at this point about over 12 months, last 12 months to come back with a plan which aligns with the community as well as with the city's requirement and the future better alignment in the flow of traffic in that neighborhood.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do have questions, Councillor Edie?
Well, I think I heard you say you're okay with the recommendation from the public service that you add a little more landscaping elements.
Yes, those bushes, we will definitely add those one that wasn't, some of those architectural folks, sometimes they want to have certain beautification factors and how they wanted to add that client, but we're happy to add those bushes to the existing plan to make sure that it aligns with bylaws and the requirement.
Yeah, there's a bus stop right there for anybody who's catching the FX to Garden City. Anyway, so so you're okay with giving up that little piece of the property for the get that back lane more functional, right?
Well, thank you, Councillor, for asking. I guess we were not provided any option not to give away that property. So if that what it takes to have the better flow of the transit and people who are going through that area, we are open for that. So it is.
I'll make it safer for your, for the people living there. Just, I have one question. So you said you'd bring back a plan approval in 12 months, or when do you figure you're gonna be in the ground?
Oh, actually, we've been working on this one from last 12 months with the planning department.
Oh.
We would like to go in ground right away as soon we get approval from here and we get our BPs.
And the plan has to be approved.
Exactly. So once we have plans are ready. From our perspective, we like to be in ground this winter if we could, before snow flies. Yeah.
Okay. Like you said, it's been empty for quite a couple of years now, or?
Yes.
I have no more questions, ma'am.
Sounds good. Thank you for presenting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councillor Edie.
You can rebut if you hear anything.
Okay, move on.
Yes, I don't have, I did have Guruk Ball Human signed up to appear, but there's no one else in the gallery. So I'll check with the gallery, anyone in support, in opposition, or for information. Seeing none, Madam Chairperson, so we can go back to the public service.
Councilor Edie, any further questions?
I think there's much need. I appreciate Ms. Rez has described the whole thing quite well. Yeah, I have no more questions, dude.
All right, and seeing as there's been no additional dialogue, we can give the applicant the opportunity to rebut. However, nothing has been said.
You're good, okay, you don't have any further comments yet? Okay, you can have a seat then. Thank you. We'll move on to motions. Go ahead, Councilor Edie.
And I just do want to confirm, so the extra front yard landscaping is already in here from the public service, right?
Sort of the front yard landscaping is in here for the service.
The added,
That's,
the recommendation was,
our recommendation was to not support that one. So we've recommended approval in part, striking through that item.
that's on,
There's variance.
that's on the variance.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. So. Well, I'll ask when I get to it. All right, on the subdivision. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried.
I move that the receipt of public representations be concluded.
All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, so I move that the recommendation that the recommendation of Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and forwarded to the executive policy or no, yeah, executive policy committee via the priority rezoning process. Supporting reasons. Yes, this is a modest densification along a regional street that frankly has too much motor vehicle traffic firing up and down it, but which people living on Viva would be able to tell you. But aside from that, I think that this is it is a modest. So we're going from one family unit to 6. I think that's excellent. They didn't need a parking variance or in those terms, and so it is a great improvement in the Margaret Park neighborhood. And you know, technically, if you go along Vila or Partridge, which is the next street south, there's a lot of density that's been built in there. So this is not a motion to build a small apartment block. This is it's only taking up the footprint is only taking up 33% of the property's footprint, which is quite good. And, yeah. Those are my supporting.
So, yeah, I don't have much more to add, except it's always good to see investments in communities like this to, take down and rebuild new. Especially, affordable or, a different housing typology in a community that's, pretty mature with a lot of single family dwelling. I think providing opportunities for multi-generational families, young families, single families to stay within a mature community that has many amenities around it is always a good thing. It's why we supported the Housing Accelerator Fund and some of the bylaw changes. And we can see some of that kind of coming to fruition. So very supportive of projects like this and wish all the developer the best. Okay, with that, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Aye. And that's carried
Yeah,
unanimously.
Madam Chairperson, I
Yeah.
move that the public hearing with respect to this subdivision application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried.
Just getting to report 4 here.
Please note that the committee has made a recommendation on this matter that will now proceed to council. No further representations are permitted on the subdivision and rezoning. All persons registered for the public hearing will receive notice when the matter is to be considered by council.
Okay. And just getting to the variance, Madam Chairperson. Okay, so what? Oh, no. See that? Said this report is not accessible, and then I'm going down and it is accessible. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Okay. So in here, I think I'm just approving the recommendation of the public service, right?
Correct.
There's no amendments required because the public service said no to that one variant. Okay. I move that the report of the Winnipeg Public Service be taken as read.
All those in favor? Aye. That's carried.
I move that the receipt of public recommendations be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye. I move that in accordance with subsection 247(3) of the City of Winnipeg Charter, the variance is consistent with Plan Winnipeg and any applicable secondary plan, does not create a substantial adverse effect on the amenities, convenience, use, and convenience of the adjoining property and adjacent area, including an area separated the property from the street or waterway. Is the minimum modification of the zoning bylaw required to relieve the injurious effect of zoning bylaw on the applicant's property is compatible with the area in which the property to be affected is situated. Same supporting reasons. I would mention that I'm glad that they'll have no problem with providing adequate landscaping in the front, given that the variance is not being supported there. All other variances seem to be quite good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried.
Okay, I move that the recommendations of the Winnipeg Public Service be concurred in and the variance be approved. Be approved, yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and that's carried.
And then I move that the public hearing with respect to this application be concluded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Please note that the committee's decision with respect to this application may be appealed. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the order issued, which will be mailed to all persons registered.
Right. Moves adjournment at 12:21 PM.
Thank you. Aye.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you.